Hi, everybody. This is Alan Fine. I'm here today with Walter Littlejohn, who is now, congratulations, Senior Vice President and Managing Director for Crystal River Cruises. We are going to talk about how the current environment is affecting the brand. And this is Insider Travel Report. So, Walter, congratulations.
Thanks, Alan.
Does it feel any different?
The job is the same, but it's a wonderful recognition for a lot of hard work done in the travel industry. This is going to be my 33rd year in the travel industry.
Wow.
So I look back at stories from when I was a kid and letters and notes that I used to write to friends and think, I'm doing exactly what I set out to do. I've got a passion for this industry that I love so much. So it's always great to have that recognition.
That's terrific. And so now, where are you physically right now?
I am virtually on the Rhine River, wishing that I was aboard the Crystal Bach or Crystal Debussy sailing by this beautiful castle. But alas, I am in Miami, which is home for me. And thankfully, the weather is quite lovely. So I cannot complain.
And so your family, everybody good?
Everyone is just fine. Yeah, thank you for asking. It's been a challenging environment for everyone across the globe. When I talk to friends I'm originally from the New York, New Jersey area, so I have a lot of friends up in that region and so forth. And I talk to friends and hear the stories. But more importantly, when I talk to travel advisors, and I've been speaking to a lot of our partners from across the globe, from Chile and Mexico and Hong Kong and Europe and Texas and Seattle and so forth, the stories are the same. And for me, the stories are familiar. As you might know, I was in the agency side of the business for quite some time. I owned my agency during the 9/11 terror attacks and as well as the 2009 financial meltdown. And the things, the challenges that many advisors and agency owners are going through are familiar to me. They seem to be exponentially greater than those incidents, but nonetheless, I know that we were resilient in overcoming those challenges, and I'm quite sure that this group of really dedicated professionals that we have out there will be resilient in overcoming this one as well.
Well, it's great to have your perspective here with us today. So
Thanks.
let me ask you about the Crystal River operations right now. We assume all the boats are docked, and where are they?
Yeah, so two of our ships, the Crystal Bach and Crystal Debussy, are in Arnhem, which is in the Netherlands, outside of Amsterdam, and Crystal Mozart, Crystal Mahler, and Crystal Ravel are in Linz, Austria. When all of this sort of started, we were in the process of training our crew, 97% of whom returned from the last season. For the start of the season, we were going to have our first cruise on March 18th. And so we never got to start the season. The crew, they're all home now, safe and sound, thank goodness. We have a skeleton crew aboard each vessel. And we patiently wait for the situation to evolve so that we can safely operate and get the ships going. The crew, they're people who love what they do, and they do it so well. They've been training for so long, and many of them have been serving for so long. And so as much as they enjoy, many of them, being home, they want to be working. They want to serve the guests and see people smile and be aboard the ships and so forth. It's a business when you're in it and you have a passion for it, you want to be doing it. And so we have weekly meetings with the management team in our Amsterdam office to give them an update. I had one this morning, in fact, and just to assess how the situation's evolving and changing. And we're cautiously optimistic that we will have a season this year. So I'm looking forward to that personally.
As we cover the news, I was thinking about how you would probably have your crews getting home. It's not like they're lost in the middle of the ocean. They're on a river and they could get home.
Yeah, it's interesting because we certainly don't, for the river operation, we didn't have and don't have the challenges that some of our colleagues in the ocean industry have. But nonetheless, we did have challenges when we decided to stop the training and to send everyone home. we had actually reached a point where a couple of the countries in the EU had closed their borders to even their citizens. And so we had, in fact, 3 crew members who were on their way back to the Czech Republic, and they were stopped at the border, and they had to come back to the ship, and we had to get a letter for them and get our counsel in the region to help them get in back home, back to their own country, because some countries had closed the borders even to their own citizens. And so it was a challenge, but not nearly as challenging as what we face in the ocean industry. But, again, I've always said this business is very resilient. And if you look at what many of the ocean cruise lines are doing now, and Crystal is one of them with our sister companies, Dream Cruises and Star Cruises, using our own ships to get crew members back home because there are no flights available. And so we've got these big, beautiful ships, and we're sending people to Asia, and we're getting them back to the Caribbean, we're getting them back to Europe so that they can be with their family and then be ready to restart when we're ready to restart. So again, this industry, we know no leaps and bounds to make everyone happy, and that's just another example of what we're doing as a group.
What were you able to keep most of them? Are they furloughed, or did you have to let go of some crew?
No, so what we've done for the river crew, because the contracts are different for river than they are for ocean. For the river crew, basically everyone is on, in effect, a holiday pay right now. And we terminated the contracts, and then with the understanding that when we're ready to restart, everyone who was on the payroll will be called back to restart the vessels. And so they're on their holiday pay now, and depending on how much longer this continues, they'll either tap into government social programs or find some other means. For us, all of the crew members on our river ships work for Crystal, and we pay into the full Social Security program. Mm-hmm. So they have the benefits available to them that their governments would pay. And as you know, in Europe, the Social Security system is quite strong.
So we've been publishing, but just tell us again, or what's the latest? When are the cruises going to resume?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Right now, our cruises are canceled through June 30th. We continue to monitor the situation. We have a lot of conversations with the local governments and looking at the restrictions and so forth, as well as our airline partners to make sure there's lift there. We assess on a daily basis, and right now, if my memory serves me correct, our first sailing is the first week of July. That's what we have scheduled currently. And again, we'll take a look and see as time goes on. We've been doing a lot of preparation to make sure that when we do restart service, first and foremost, our guests and our crew are safe. And so we've taken a fine-tooth comb to our entire operation, to every touch point, and examine ways that we can mitigate the risk as much as possible. It's not.
Do you have some examples of the changes?
Yeah, so we actually had a nice, robust plan to start this when we were going to start in March, but it will start with a pre-boarding process where we're screening our guests. There will be an extensive health questionnaire, and as well, we will be taking the temperature of guests using thermal cameras, and anyone who may exhibit signs of having a fever and so forth, we will refer them to a physician before they board. So for us, now, river cruise ships don't operate from terminals, but we also want to keep the vessel as clean as possible. And so we will be doing the check-in process outside of the vessel in a tent setup. And so that if there is someone who's in question health-wise, they won't have been on board the vessel. They wouldn't have had an opportunity to contaminate the vessel anyway. And so they'll be sent off to a physician. And then the only way they'll be able to come back to the vessel and actually board is if they have a physician stamp of approval. We're looking at a lot of other measures, like actually testing at boarding and so forth. And as being a part of Genting, as a group, we are looking at a series of really robust measures that we'll use across all of our ships. The river ships have a different sort of protocol because we have the national requirements from wherever we're sailing, but also because we have more limited facilities. But we have always, with the river ships, run the operation as if they're ocean liners, and we really push the standards and we push the limits of what typically is done in river cruising to give the highest degree of comfort and safety to our guests as possible. So we're doing things like that in the pre-boarding process, and then the onboard process, we will be practicing social distancing. The nice thing about our ships is we've got a built-in advantage. We have 135-meter long ships, so they're long ships like every other new river cruise ship, but they were designed from the onset to only carry half as many guests as possible. So our ships are already spacious. There is already a lot of room in the restaurants, and there's already a lot of room in the lounges, but we will take it further. We'll cap the capacity at a certain number or whatever to make sure that we're following all the local guidelines. We have an extensive protocol in place with the crew members to make sure that they're healthy and safe. The whole way that we'll be cleaning and sanitizing the room, the guest suites, and the public lounges, that will all kick up to the nth degree, again, to make the environment as safe as possible. And we're taking a lot of those practices and also bringing them ashore. We run our own fleet of luxury motor coaches that follow each of the vessels. And so we're using the sanitation protocols that we'll have on board the vessel with the buses as well. So we at least can keep the guests safe in that environment. We're already in a good place where there is sufficient spacing and so forth, but we are looking at some other measures. We're actually kind of testing now using our skeleton crew who's on board. We're testing a couple of different models, whether that be like a seating model or having all of the restaurants open every night so that we can space people out even more. So just imagine, Alan, our size ship would normally carry up to 212 guests. There are a number of ships that are exact same size, carry 212 guests. We carry 106. Now, we have 3 restaurants. And so the seating, we have 140 seats in our restaurants as is. So we have a lot of space to be able to work with, and we're going to really, leverage that positioning. Our challenges will be, or some changes that will occur, will likely be in the lounge, in the main lounge. There are some rules that are being kicked around with regards to having entertainment in public spaces and so forth. So because you don't want to congregate people, you want to give people a reason to congregate. And so we're looking at different models there to see how we can mitigate that. But we're talking to a lot of people, and there are a lot of different rules and ideas being floated around in Europe right now. We're talking to a lot of people, and we'll leverage the best practices without question. And of course, as we go along, we'll learn too.
Let's shift and look at now your relationship with the travel advisors. When the pandemic first happened and the cease to sailing happened, were there a lot of cancellations? Were a lot of postponements? Future cruise credit, I know, was a good offer. What happened there?
Yeah, so whenever we canceled the sailing ourselves because we couldn't sail for reasons, logistical reasons, and so forth, we gave our guests 2 options. One was to either get a full refund or to take a 125% future cruise credit. And we've had a strong take rate. We've had about 50% of the guests have opted to take the future cruise credit, and others have taken a full refund. We have been seeing a lot of forward bookings in 2021 and 2022 because we have our 22 season open. And what we mainly see, I believe, are guests who are saying, well, I can't go in 20, so I'm going to go in 21 or 22. And that's encouraging. Whenever we canceled the sailing ourselves, we protected agent commission. That's very important for those guests who are paid in full. The advisor did a lot of work, and it's no fault of their own that we had to cancel the sailing, and so we wanted to make sure they were protected there. We've gotten very good feedback from a lot of partners as to how we handled it. We've tried to keep the policies as clear and concise as possible. We tried to keep them as simple as possible so they're easy to communicate to their guests. And by and large, we've gotten really great feedback on that. So we have always learned as time has gone on, and we've always evolved, and we had the good fortune of applying a lot of the learnings that we had from the 2018 low water crisis to how we communicate with this particular crisis. And so it wasn't as if any of this was new to us. It was just a different set of circumstances.
That's true. Let's talk also, though, about the advanced purchase savings program.
So, this was a program that I created with a couple of my colleagues, and we had a couple of things in mind. So, while we were getting 2021 bookings in 2022, they weren't at the same levels as we would have normally for this time of the year. There is a long tail for river cruises. People do plan in advance. And so we didn't want to miss that window. But as well, we are most and foremost in tune with what advisors and agencies are going through right now. There is a need for cash. You need money. The bookings have disappeared by and large for 2020. You speak to most advisors and they say they've been spending all their time doing cancellations. And their book of business, which was quite healthy for a lot of advisors going into the turn of the year, that book of business has literally disappeared. And I thought about my personal experiences when I was an agency owner and advisor during 9/11 and so forth. And I remember a lot of money going out the door, and I had to wait a long time for money to come back in. And so we wanted to do our part. And basically create our own stimulus program for agents. And so we came up with this idea of the advanced purchase savings. It's very simple concept because, of course, that's the other thing is you have to keep the message simple. $36.99 flat fare over 60 different sailings where the client gets the best available suite at the time of reservation. So it's like a guarantee, but they know what room they're getting in advance. The client gets flexibility to change their travel dates until December 31st of 2020. So that's something that's important to the clients, right? But for the advisor, there are two elements to it, right? So they get a $250 gift card, which a lot of agency owners appreciate. We're giving money to advisors so they can go buy
That's
groceries.
immediate.
Yep, that's immediate. They can buy groceries, they can buy gas, food, whatever it may be. And then the agency we process the commission right away, right? And so that's why we made the payment to the client up front, like they have to make the final payment up front because we wanted to process the commission up front. And so it really is, it's a win for the client, it's a win for the advisors, and it's a win for us as well because we get to build a base of business, and we get to keep the distribution channel engaged and healthy because 95% of our business comes through travel advisors. And so we need a healthy distribution channel as much as our advisors need a healthy company to work for. And so this was our way of creating something that lends towards that. So we just opened the program on May 6th on Travel Advisor Appreciation Day. So it's been 24 hours. We had a revenue call this morning. And while I was on the revenue call, I had our director of reservations call me and tell me that the phones were off the hook. That it's being very, very well received by our travel partners and clients and so forth. And so I'm encouraged by that. It's just the first day, but I am encouraged by it. I think of it as if I were in that position, if I were an advisor right now, I would be putting my efforts behind this. The clients are getting tremendous savings, up to 50%. They're getting beautiful deluxe suites. They're getting flexibility as well. So it's a win for the client, and then for advisors, again, there's that stimulus money. So it's perfect.
So that's a great incentive. But what about the Crystal Assured program?
Yeah, that's a really ingenious program. We have a lot of discussions with our trial advisors, and we're always open to ideas and so forth. And we've had a number of advisors, particularly on our advisory council, who mentioned to us that one of the lost opportunities in this crisis is the fact that while guests are on board our ships, they often book new cruises. They do it for additional savings. We do a book on board 2.5% additional savings that's combinable with all promotions and so forth. And they're excited, right? They're having a wonderful vacation. They want to do it again. And with the ships not operating, we're losing out on those opportunities. And travel advisors are losing out on the commissions that they get from those new bookings. So we created this Crystal Assured savings program, which allows guests to do like what they would do on board the ship. They put up a deposit of $500 per person. It's an open booking, and in return for that deposit, which they can later choose whichever cruise they want to go on, they get 2.5% additional savings. And so again, another creative way to kind of satisfy different needs in the market and so forth. And that's had a fantastic take rate. We've had it out in the market for a couple of weeks now, and we have a lot of advisors who are really engaging and sharing it, sharing the program with folks, and it's nice. We've had a fantastic booking ratio, conversion ratio. So once the people put the deposit down, what's happening is usually within about a week or so of putting the deposit down, they're actually selecting the specific cruise they want to go on, so they can then see the total savings that they get. And so again, another win-win for the advisor. And once the client puts the deposit down, the advisor gets the commission on the deposit piece, and then they'll later get the full commission on the cruise that the client selected.
And
Yes.
it does the same thing. It also creates a little cash flow.
Well, cash flow for the advisor, exactly. That's exactly right. And it gives them something to look forward to. So now they have a client who has something to look forward to themselves, some inspiration, some positive thought and hope and so forth. And hopefully that client will share with their friends, hey, we booked the cruise for next April. We're going on Crystal, and perhaps friends will want to join, because I think there will also be a lot of that. I think there will be opportunities where people will want to spend time with their friends that they haven't been able to spend time with lately and so forth. And to go on vacation together is one great way of doing that.
So can you do an assured and then do an advanced purchase savings?
You can't combine those particular two. The advanced purchase savings is a really, really rich offer, and so you aren't able to combine those particular two. However, the advanced purchase savings offer is on about 60 Crystal River sailings. Between 2021 and 2022, we have an additional 240 sailings that don't have the advanced purchase savings on it. So there are lots of opportunities for people to select a vacation of their choice and get some savings off of it.
What, in your opinion, should travel advisors be doing right now to connect with clients and really get ready to book?
It's a great question. So there's a perception out there that there are some clients who just don't want to talk about vacations, right, or spending money and so forth. And that may be the case for an audience. Not everyone can be bucketed into one category, though. There are a number of people who are looking for inspiration. They're looking for something to look forward to, something to be excited about, something to take their mind out of all the negativity that we're being surrounded with every day on the news, when we walk outside our homes, when we go to the supermarket and so forth. And so there is an audience out there, and I think it's a quite large audience that wants to talk about a vacation, that wants ideas and so forth. And so the first thing we have to do as advisors is we've got to get our mindset ready, right? So we have to get up to snuff on what's going on in the marketplace, what's the position of different travel suppliers, their preferred suppliers that they work with. Make sure that you as an advisor are prepared and you know about your preferred companies as well as you can know, because your clients are going to ask a lot of questions. You also have to have your story, your pitch ready, right? I think the clients who've made out or who've managed this crisis the best were the ones who booked through travel advisors. Because when there was something that was going wrong, whether they were stuck halfway across the globe or their cruise line was canceling their cruise, those who booked through an advisor who was in tune with the market and so forth, those were the folks who made out best. So you as an advisor, you want to have your pitch ready as to why someone should be working with you and so forth. So once you've got your house in order and you're mentally good and you're ready to move forward, because at some point in time, we have to stop wallowing in what's going on. We recognize that this is a just incredibly difficult crisis. It's very saddening and so forth, but we also owe it to ourselves and to those who sacrificed during this crisis to move forward. And so once you have yourself straight, get that messaging together, identify those clients who you think would be most receptive to listening to you, and start engaging with them. I personally have just been writing notes to advisors who I've spoken to over the years who've sent me an email or sent me a note, and I've just been touching base and saying, how are things going? Just want to remind you I'm here for you and so forth. And so many advisors can do the same, and it may prompt a conversation. It may prompt a question. It may prompt a dialogue. And then you can slowly start your marketing of different really great opportunities for your clients to take advantage of. One of our SBDMs had a conversation with an advisor yesterday that she was touching base with, and she shared the story of this new promotion. The advisor was all over it and apparently picked up the phone after she'd spoken to the SBDM and started phoning clients. And by 11 o'clock this morning had made 3 bookings on that new promotion, paid in full, right? So immediate commission, immediate gift cards for that advisor. Now, before that sales call, the advisor might have thought people weren't ready, but she was actually pleasantly surprised because the client wanted something to look forward to and thought the deal was amazing and just couldn't pass it up.
No, it's true. And that whole message you just gave was spoken like a true veteran travel advisor.
Yeah, yeah, I've been through it. The stories of what my company went through during the 9/11 terror attacks, and then also after the 2009 meltdown. They were hard-earned lessons, to say the least, but I'm always happy to share my experience with people so that they can leverage from it as best they can.
Now, you spoke of the messaging. So let's talk a little bit about that. So what should travel advisors be saying about Crystal River to bring confidence in cruising back?
Yeah, so it all goes back to the basics. So again, like I shared earlier, when it comes to intimacy and spaciousness, quality, comfort, attention to detail, concern for the general well-being of the guest and all of their needs, no one has done that better in the past 30 years than Crystal.
Anyway.
And so what Crystal River Cruises specifically has to offer a guest, a more intimate experience and so forth, that is what people are wanting and needing. And so it goes back to the basics of knowing our signature hallmarks, of sharing with the client how we prepare all of our food to order only using fresh ingredients, how we have an attentive butler in every suite who takes care of the guests, the spaciousness of the suites themselves with the walk-in closets, the king-size beds, the double vanity bathroom so you can practice social distancing while you're brushing your teeth with your travel companion. It's all of those really fantastic amenities that an advisor should turn to and share with their clients so they can understand this is why Crystal would be their vacation of choice for this particular vacation.
So Walter, is there anything that you can think of that we haven't covered? Okay. Now, so Walter, is there anything that you want to say, any final words you want to say to the travel advisors who are listening in?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I think of when I think of my own personal situation and how I'm going to live after in the post-COVID environment, right? After this crisis, and as we start to return to normal, for certain, one of the things that I'm quite sure of is that there will be a flight to quality, as I like to say. People are going to be looking for value for the money. People are going to be looking for the most hassle-free experiences they can find. They're going to be looking for opportunities and vacations where
May I interrupt and say that just good enough might not just be good enough?
That's exactly right. Just good enough was good enough when things were fantastic and crazy and so forth. But now it's going to be about quality. It's really going to be about quality. It's going to be about the guests being reassured that it's all going to be good and they're not going to have any hassles because they've just had the most unbelievable hassle of their life, right? And so that's where a brand like Crystal just plays so well. this is what we do. This is what we've been perfecting for the past 30 years. You know, I don't even know if this is our 30th anniversary this year. And we wouldn't have come this far and have done so well if we were just good enough. It's never been just good enough for us. We always strive to do better and better and better, and we always push ourselves to do that. And clients are going to be looking for that. Clients are going to be looking for that moment of joy where they can go on a vacation and everything works well, and they're comforted and they're re-energized and they're revitalized, and they have positive stories and memories to share with their friends and their family and so forth. And so as an advisor, this is your time to retool all of the tools in your tool shed and pick those suppliers like Crystal, first and foremost, who are going to deliver those kinds of experiences for your clients.
That is perfectly said. Walter, it's always a pleasure talking with you.
Pleasure's always been mine, Alan. Thank you.
And this is Alan Fine for Insider Travel Report.